This has got to be one of the fastest falls from grace of any director that I've ever seen. Even I at one point held Taika Waititi in very high regards. What We Do in the Shadows and The Hunt for the Wilder People are both great. I enjoyed Jojo Rabbit quite a bit, and quite honestly, Ragnarok is one of my absolute favorite MCU movies. And then he goes and delivers Love and Thunder. And my god, this movie is bad. I thought it was pretty average after my initial viewing, but going back now and rewatching it, this movie is pretty awful. And to think 2 movies before this, he seemed like the king of the mountaintop of the MCU. Crazy. Like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you're new, check out the rest of the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into Thor, Love and Thunder. I don't even know where to begin with this thing. There isn't a lot that I actually like about this movie, to be honest. All it has done since it premiered was drop to the near bottom of my personal MCU rankings list. And look, I think the core narrative is compelling. There is a being who, because he has felt personally betrayed by his god, he put all of his faith and dedication into, seeks to roam the galaxy and kill all of the gods in an act of revenge. That's compelling. That's interesting. Plus, you toss in the side story of Jane's arc with battling cancer and reuniting with Thor, and I think that could be really compelling too. Those are the 2 best things this movie has going for it, just those ideas. Then you have Christian Bale, arguably the best actor of his generation, one of the most talented actors in the world, playing the movie's villain Gore. Bale is the second shining light of this movie, but barely. He does his absolute best at overcoming the poor writing and goofy dialogue to deliver a sinister and heartbreaking performance, but even he falls victim to Waititi's nonsense here and again. I mean, half the time it feels like Bale is acting in scenes in a completely different movie than the rest of the cast. Past those 2 factors, the rest of this movie is just annoyingly bad, because it could have been and should have been very good. It tries so hard to replicate what made Ragnarok so iconic: the captivating character arcs, the wild visuals, the fun action sequences, and underrated yet gripping performances, and a healthy balance of drama and humor. But because of its shoddy execution and Waititi's refusal to take anything seriously, we're left with a film that is essentially a parody of itself, and I'm pretty positive that no one meant for it to be that way. Let's take Thor for example. Thor's arc in Ragnarok brought his character back to the forefront. Ever since Dark World, he's always felt like the stepbrother of the main trinity, and it's because his first 2 films were just average. Some would say mediocre. He didn't really have his own personality, his own identity, and he was just never given a lot to do. He didn't really have a true calling or purpose, and what Ragnarok does is address that. It lets Hemsworth play to his strengths as an actor, and we finally get a Thor with personality. He's funny, yet when the moment needs him to be, he shines dramatically. Plus his journey as it plays through the events of Ragnarok and then Infinity War and Endgame, he discovers that he doesn't want to be a ruler. He's a warrior, and that's his calling. So he goes off with the Guardians and seemingly does just that, becomes a warrior or a guardian of the galaxy. A good arc. He finds his purpose. Except we start Love and Thunder, and guess what? Thor doesn't have a purpose again. He's depressed, and we just repeat the same character arc that we just did 3 movies prior. Really? Jane's arc could have been cool. I've said this before, I'm not a fan of just recasting or passing on the mantle of a character after the original has moved on, and that's still true. I didn't want a Jane Foster Thor, but I think the cancer plotline and her using Mjolnir to ease her pain is interesting. Not to mention how that affects her cancer and increases its detriment on her body. The problem is that a lot of the time it's just played for laughs and distracts from what should ultimately be an emotionally charged character arc. I will say, though, credit to Taika when it's due, because this is the only film in which Jane and Thor actually have any chemistry. You actually feel the love between the two on screen for once. And you know what? Credit to Natalie Portman as well, because she actually kind of got jacked for this movie. A lot of female actresses, they don't do that for these movies. And I wish they would, because it makes the character look and feel better on screen, I think. The visuals in this are just, they're a step backward from Ragnarok. It's crazy. The vibrant color palettes are back, but the effects are so hit or miss. Some sets seem tangible, and a lot of others just look and feel like a green screen curtain. It's incredible how devoid of life this scenery is in this film compared to the last one. I mean, none of Olympus feels real pretty much at all. Gore's base planet is cool for the black and white palette, but that's about it. Most of the action sequences are so goofy and over the top, like the opening with Thor doing the Van Damme split. I mean, what is that? Why are we doing that? The finale with the kids is so corny, and the only really memorable action sequence is the fight on Gore's planet, and it lasts like 5 minutes. I mean, remember the Thor vs. Hulk Gladiator fight, or the epic Rainbow Bridge fight vs. Hela, or the opening scene of Thor decimating Surtur's demons? All of those feel important, they're fun, they're full of really cool action set pieces, and they add to the overall story. You never feel that with any of these sequences in Love and Thunder. The performances in this film are so melodramatic and just downright silly. You got Russell Crowe doing his goofy Greek accents, flicking his skirt around. What's that? Why? Hemsworth is a very talented actor, by the way. I feel like he gets shade thrown his way because he does mostly superhero flicks, but trust me, go watch Rush or even The First Extraction. That dude can act his ass off. And they let him act in Ragnarok, but for whatever reason, not this. Natalie Portman should have more emotional scenes in this and doesn't, and her performance is basically a step up from Attack of the Clones, but not by much. Nobody in this movie outside of Christian Bale takes their role seriously at all. I stated earlier that Waititi was able to strike a balance between drama and humor in Ragnarok, and I stand by that. I agree with a lot of the critics who say that Marvel is just too silly at times. I don't mind humor, but it needs to make sense. It needs to be actually funny, and it needs to not distract from the emotional effect and the weight of the film. Love and Thunder breaks pretty much all of these rules. The humor oftentimes feels out of left field, just odd. Most, if not all, of the humor undercuts all of the dramatic sequences and scenes, and none of it is funny. A lot of the humor in this movie is designed to make like a 5-year-old child laugh. They spend so much focus on Thor quipping with his hammer and axe to inanimate objects, discussing the love triangle between them. It's just weird and it's stupid. And the goats, one of the most annoying things I've ever seen put to screen. And nearly every emotionally resonant scene is ruined by humor when it doesn't need to be. You never get any time to just sit with a poignant moment and let it breathe. There are many times in Ragnarok that are allowed to do just that. My favorite one, and I think the best example, is when Hela has Thor pinned to the balcony overlooking the Asgardian forces that are just surrounded. He's vulnerable and he's out of ideas. Suddenly he's transported to another plane where he sees Odin. He collapses at his father's feet, admitting failure and acknowledging that he can't be his father in his strength or his leadership. Odin gives him a quick pep talk, and Thor explains that he's not strong like Odin was. And Odin glances at his son and responds, "No, you're stronger." It's a very touching scene that not only hints at Thor's hidden power level, but also punctuate his bumpy yet loving relationship with his father. And right after that, Immigrant Song kicks in, and Thor hits Hela with a lightning blast before jumping into one of the best action sequences in the movie. It's epic. You don't get that anywhere in Love and Thunder. At all. This movie lacks focus, it lacks soul, and it lacks a director who takes their job seriously. I have no doubt that Waititi is a talented writer and director. I even admitted to enjoying quite a few of his movies to start out with. But he was definitely checked out of this film. It looks like he just took the paycheck and ran, and just threw paint at a canvas and said, here's the movie. It was never more evident that this movie was a mess than when Hemsworth came out in an interview years later and admitted that they messed up and took their eye off the ball. Now, Waititi is out, and honestly for the better, because he's definitely lost a step. There is another Thor film on the horizon, and I think we all just hope it's not a pile of garbage like this one.